More chips don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham.
He's done it! The magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Cardiff! Folks, good way you kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
Here's Mendy! There's that race-class roll again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week when an Austrian daredevil lit his body on fire and pulled a car a distance of 328 feet in 56.42 seconds to earn a Guinness World Records title. Josef Todling became the first person to hold the record for the fastest 100-metre car pull in full-body burn when he completed the stunt in Vienna, Austria. A video of the record attempt shows Todling pulling the car while a member of his support team keeps pace with a fire extinguisher, ready to put out the flames if anything went wrong. His support team used 3 fire extinguishers to keep his body from burning at the end of the attempt. Todling already held multiple records that involved setting himself on fire, obsessed much, including the longest duration full-body burn without oxygen, 5 minutes and 41 seconds, furthest distance pulled by a vehicle, full-body burn, 1,909 feet and 5 inches, fastest 200-metre cycle during a full-body burn, 49.55 seconds, and the farthest distance full-body burn on a zip wire, 201 feet and 60 centimetres. Well, if it's hot stuff you're looking for, I've got the perfect 2 fire extinguishers on hand. Just ask the ladies. It's Jamie and Daz.
You finally got there then in the end?
Yes,
got there in the end.
Yes, exactly, yes. Didn't take many takes, unusually for me. Gentlemen, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, quite a dull week, really. I mean, not much happened from my point of view, apart from...
Oh, hang on.
Yes. That's it. That's the one. Yes, Ryan Reynolds finally got his wish and got to meet me. And he was truly honoured. And for those of you who are listening, you'll see a picture of myself, Ryan Reynolds with his hand on my shoulder. I will never wash his shoulder again. And our mate Dave, who sits next to us on the season ticket as well, wearing the most garish jacket you've ever seen in your life, to say the least.
Danny Zuko's granddad.
It was quite a surreal experience, and I'm happy to discuss it because there are other things as well I want to talk about.
Are you happy to talk about it?
I am very, very happy to talk about it.
It's
yes,
good
I
that
am.
you should offer.
Because I have ticked one of my boxes, which is great. And do you know what? As well, it was a complete fluke. I knew that the women were having a signing at the club shop between 11 and 1, so I thought I'd pop along around 11:45 to talk to the women, and I did. Had some great conversations. Spoke to Jenny Sugarman. Again, I didn't record any of these because it wasn't right to do that, but I just wanted to talk to her. Just said, welcome, hope you're having a good time. Really, really pleased with the start we'd had, because obviously we'd had the one win by that point. She was, full of praise for the fans, loved the club, loved the welcome of the club, thinks the women are all, really, really a great bunch. And she's very, very confident. Lovely to meet. from that point of view. And then I spoke to a number of people. I spoke to Rosie Hughes. I spoke to Maz. I spoke to Phoebe Davis. I'd like to put out an official apology now. Phoebe, I'm sorry. I made a big joke about the fact is that you hadn't had a yellow card yet, and we called you the yellow card queen. And then what happens on Sunday? You get a yellow card and score an own goal. So I hold my hands up on that one. That is totally my fault. Yeah, I know. I'm terrible. I spoke to Karen Allen. I spoke to so many players, and they were lovely. They spent time with speaking to me and Dave, and they are very, very kind of. You can tell the confidence of the group is there. There's a great group ethic, and that's brilliant. However, we're standing there. There was a lot of people around. Michael Williamson was in. Obviously, the communications director was in, not saying much as usual. And there were 3 film crews, and I'm thinking that's a lot of film crews to have. For the women. I mean, 1 and maybe a backup I can understand, but 3 film crews is a lot. And then suddenly, right at the back of the shop, there's a bit of a kerfuffle going on, and then in walks Mr. Reynolds with another film crew. Now, luckily for me, there weren't very many people in the shop because obviously this wasn't planned. So he goes over, he talks to some of the women. They have a group photo of them all taken with Ryan in the middle. Then Ryan went back off around the other side of the shop. I was having a chat with Lily Jones, and we were having a bit of a conversation in Welsh. I was just saying congratulations on, going into the Gorsedd and becoming a bard in the Eisteddfod, and she was very, very kind of, I don't deserve it, and it's a massive honour, and and I was saying, no, absolutely, you definitely deserve it. You represent, as somebody who comes from Wrexham, you represent the town brilliantly, from that point of view, and you represent the Welsh language. It's the 2 main things, that is a major achievement, which was great, and she was, really, really said thank you very much, and just everything you expected to be. Anyway, then Ryan, while we're having this conversation, comes round. He's having his pictures taken, and then, of course, he comes near me and my big gob. I say, Ryan, any chance we can have a photograph? And Ryan says, yes, of course, no problem at all. So then he comes and stands between myself and Dave. And then we have at least a 2-minute conversation. It's not just a case of photograph when he's away. Dave mentioned about the podcast and the fact that we run the podcast. And he asked, what was the podcast? What's the podcast called? And I said, it's called the Eat More Chips podcast. And he said, well, it's Eat All the Chips in my case, is what he said. And I said, well, I said, you wouldn't look at me, on the other hand. He said, no. He said, it's just very, very good lighting and special effects, which I thought was really, really good. And then we just have a conversation. I thanked him. I said, look, I'm only going to speak for myself. As a Wrexham lad who had to move away in the early 90s because there was no work and the town was, a bit dead on its bum. I had to move away because there was no work. It's brilliant now that between you and Rob, you've come and you've seen this kind of jewel that is Wrexham in the rough, and you've helped out to try and do something of it. And he said he was very kind of, listen, we to be honest with you, we took a massive gamble. We didn't see it. We just thought that there was. We wanted to take a chance on it because we thought it was worth the chance. And it's all about the story. It's all about the people. The people here are generous and kind and loving. And, that's what we wanted. And all we've done is just brush the dust away and let people see exactly what is there. We've not added to anything. We've not taken anything away. All we've done is just, like a flower, we've exposed it to the light and watch it grow. And that's all we've done. And I said, well, honestly, I know you've heard it a million times, and I'm sure, I know what you're going to say, but for you and Rob, I personally can never thank you enough. And he was obviously very generous. And I said, and most of all, I said, I'm looking forward to the 50-foot gold statue going to sit in the middle of Queen Square. And he said, funny enough, I brought one of those with me. So I said, great, okay, fine. Anyway, we were having, talking about other pits, having some other jokes, and I said, I'm the one who said then, look, I need to let you get on because you're a very, very busy man. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And as he's walking away, he turns around to me and says, what was the name of that pod again? Eat More Chips? I said, yes, that's right. He said, oh, I'll have to drop on that. That's a contract. That's a verbal contract. So, hi, Ryan. Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds, when you're ready, there is always an open chair here for you. I'll even do it to the point where I'll put it on big screen rather than little boxes that we're in. And you're Rob, obviously, more than welcome to come and have a conversation to us. We'll talk nothing but crap, and we'll probably look at you with doe eyes like this. Daz will get very excited because even though he's used to meeting stars, there's some film stars that I think, Daz, you probably get a little bit weak at the knees for.
Oh, absolutely. The man's gorgeous. Why wouldn't I?
Absolutely. So anytime you want to come, but yes, it was It was very surreal, to say the least. And obviously, Dave standing there, he's giddy like a schoolgirl as well, which was great. What was a bit weird is all the press afterwards that we managed to make it to. Dave said, "I can't believe we made the Daily Mail." I had to hang my head in shame for that.
Serves you right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Careful what you ask for.
Obviously, they asked permission to use the photo. No, they didn't. So yeah, it was one of those weird days. And do you know what the best bit of it was I did say to Ryan, do you know what, Ryan? Do you know what the best bit about this is? And he said, what? I said, when my brother finds out that I've met you and he hasn't, he's going to be pig sick. And Ryan said, well, that's what being a brother is all about. So, yes.
So he's a git like you. Hey, no, bruv, I'm really pleased for you. I'm not bothered in the slightest. Oh shit, I forgot this is video now.
Do you know what's even funnier? The fact that your wife met Paul Mullin this week, so you've been doubly kicked in the nuts, which is great.
Yes, she did. Yes, my wife met Paul Mullin this week as well. So the place where she works got him to come in to do a like a talk, just like a talk to the staff. You know, I don't know what you sort of motivational speech. Thank you very much. Yeah, she's just shouting in the background. Yeah, like a motivational speech, to be fair. So yeah, she met him and had several photographs with him.
Was the motivational speech? Did it go around the sort of theme of F the Tories? You know, because that's all I need to hear, and I'm roused to the point.
Yeah, I cannot confirm or deny whether he said such a statement. No, he by all accounts he was very open, very honest. Obviously, it wasn't just all talking about his Wrexham days, although that was a hot topic, and she told me some of the things which he said, which I won't kind of repeat because it's not fair, but quite interesting. He signed a load of the prints. So I don't know if you remember the photograph that I took from the Forest Green game when we got promoted from League Two. The kind of iconic picture of him stood on the advertising hoardings. I had some of those left over, so I let her take them in with her, and he signed. I think he signed 40 odd of them, to which they're then going to sell for charity.
Some left over.
Yeah, but
excuse me, just one or two.
But bear in mind, I think I can't remember how many I saw because I raised about $2,000 for charity selling them at the time. I can't remember how many I had, but I had more left over than I thought. And he very kindly signed so I've got some hand painted Adidas trainers, which my wife got for me for my birthday a couple of years ago, which I've never worn because just because they're unique, they're one-offs, they're literally one of a kind. So my plan is to put them on display in my new office when I move. So she took them and he signed them for me. So I got something, but I did say to somebody yesterday, all I need now is for my daughter to meet Rob Mack this weekend, and it'll just properly piss on my chips for this week. So now, hey, look, bruv, I am gutted. I'm gutted I didn't get to meet him and have a photograph with him and pinch his arse. But genuinely, I'm chuffed to bits for you, and I was chuffed to see that picture. And
fingers crossed, we can now get him on the pod. I'm hoping that this exposure, a bit of everything else, we can get him.
Do you know what?
Because he needs that level of exposure.
Yeah,
I think
he does.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What he's been missing, you know.
There must be a tiny sliver of his life where he desperately needs to come on a pod like this.
He's been on the professional podcast. He needs to come and slum it now and come on a not so professional one. To be fair though, whether he does or he doesn't, it's neither here nor there. But I'm glad you mentioned it, and it's nice. Hopefully he will remember it, and he might have a listen and listen to us talking shite for 2.5 hours. Which is great.
Stand by, Ryan, because you're in for another 2 hours of utter crap after this.
My mask broke.
Well, with all the joy of Saturday, unfortunately, there was a football match afterwards, which wasn't as much joy at all, to say the least. Yes, Wrexham welcomed the Queen's Park Rangers to the Stoke Kite Ross for what lots of Wrexham fans thought was going to be, you know, a bit of a nice day out, and it turned out the complete opposite. Let's first of all just look at the lineup. 2 changes from the Millwall game, with Okonkwo obviously coming in for the injured Danny Ward, and James McLean having to come in for Kakache, who had developed another injury during training that week. Jamie, the big kind of question really was, where were all the transfer day signings, the 3 signings that we made? Where were they? I mean, were you surprised not to see any of them? I mean, I know a couple of them were on the bench, but none of them starting.
I was, and I wasn't surprised. I was surprised. I was certainly surprised that we didn't see one of them. I thought Sheaf, of the 3 of them, I thought Sheaf would have started. Kabore, unsure about, obviously, that there was the rumours doing the round, wasn't there, about him being dropped because of being late. But I don't know if you saw the Sean Harvey pod yesterday.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't true.
He absolutely pissed on that from a great height. So I wasn't surprised necessarily with Kabore. Same with Hyam, because obviously he would have had very little time with the team, because he was away when we signed him. He was away with the Scotland team. But I was a little bit surprised that Ben Sheaf didn't start, and obviously disappointed that Kakache is out again with an injury. I mean, I don't know. It's just it sucks, doesn't it? You know, we've got what we think is good left wing back there, and at the moment he spent more time with Kev Mulholland than he has with anybody else, which is a bit of a kick in the balls, particularly when we talk in a minute about the game and the wing backs. But yeah, it was. But then, you know, Parky. This is what Parky does, doesn't he? We've seen it over the years where he will integrate players slowly. I think he's had to throw more new players in quicker this time around, because we've signed so many new players. But I think his ideal preference is to integrate players in slowly over a period of time. So from that perspective, I wasn't necessarily surprised that the 3 didn't start.
Well, Wrexham started strongly, probably for the first 10 minutes, which we've seen before, but very, very quickly QPR started to work us out, and we're really, starting to infiltrate, particularly through midfield. We have that same problem again of the midfield being very, very open and empty, giving them lots of time in the centre to be able to run riot. Lots of chances on both sides. We had more chances, but again, inaccuracy. Not being a massive problem. 33 minutes, calamitous action in the box, with the ball bouncing around all over the place, nobody being able to clear it, and eventually Connor Cody managed to bundle it in for an own goal. 44 minutes, Richard Kone, who we know very well from our time playing Wycombe Wanderers last year, basically the midfield was non-existent. They walked through midfield, they walked through defence. Nobody closed him down. He hit a shot probably from 20 yards out, an absolute belter right into the top corner. And before we know it, we're 2-0 down. Second half, didn't make any immediate changes, Parky. 67 minutes, Kiva Moore with a glancing header from the corner, something we've seen lots of times before, to make it 2-1. And you thought, watching the game, okay, maybe there's a chance here of us being able to get something. Maybe if we put the pressure on and QPR get worried about having to defend the lead, maybe we'll do something. But not really. Parky tried to mix the players up a bit, making some substitutions as he does, but it didn't really seem to make much difference. And then on 75 minutes, Roman Burrell, I mean, it was a QPR clearance, downfield. I don't know what Cody was doing. I think he was out for a Saturday afternoon walk, because it looked like he was running in treacle. But he got completely outpaced by Burrell. Add to that, Okonkwo making an decision about whether he's going to come out, whether he's going to stay. He eventually pitched the tent, but it was too late by that point, and Burrell chipped it over him to make it 3-1. And that was it, 3-1 in the end. Very, very disappointing from my point of view. Wrexham finished the week 21st in the Championship. Jamie, I don't know. I know you're working, so I don't know how much you've managed to see, but what were your thoughts on what we witnessed on Saturday?
It was, I mean, obviously, like you say, I was working, didn't see the game live, knew the result on the day. What I was really interested on was when you look at the stats from this game and then watch the game like I have, it's like as if the stats are not from this game. Because if you look at those statistics and you look at how many shots were had, you'd think this was literally a Harlem Globetrotters end-to-end game of football, and it wasn't like that at all.
No.
So just a good example really of sometimes you have to take stats with a pinch of salt. I mean, XG, I'm not even going to talk about that because that's a load of nonsense as far as I'm concerned. But the fact that there were 36 shots between the two teams, the fact that we had 60% of the possession, which blew my mind, because when I watched the game back again, it didn't feel like that. I think as I was watching the game back, and obviously there's been quite a lot of fallout this week after this game. An awful lot of talk about Parky, which I don't know whether you're gonna mention or discuss or whatever.
That's Daz's question. That's Daz's question.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, obviously,
brace yourself for that, Daz. Brace yourself.
I am.
I mean, it's I think it's been such big hot news this week. It's fair to discuss it, isn't it? Although I think it's a non-story. But I think when I watched this game back, I had a little bit of an epiphany in the sense of it wasn't that long ago where we were talking about this season and that we were going to expect a tough time this season. And I think I can only speak for myself. I think I've maybe kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. Seeing all the glitz of all these new signings that we've brought in, 13 new players, and the quality of some of these players and the amount of money that we've spent. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't naive enough to think that was going to convert into a playoff push or a promotion push. But I think I did kind of slightly get ahead of myself in the sense of this game reminded me that there is no easy games in this league. On paper, we should have beaten QPR, and some muppet predicted a 4-0 win last week. I don't know who did that. Is that one of you?
I did say no chance when you said
yes,
that.
you did say no. Yeah, no, you did say no chance. And like I say, I think what this game showed me was that we are going to have a very different type of season this season. No matter what happens, and I still expect us to improve because this is a very new squad. It's a very new set of players. It's going to take time for them to get into a rhythm, into a routine, and find gel together and everything else. But QPR, what this showed you on Saturday was that there are no weak teams in this division. No. Every team in this division has got players that can win games. I think the concern in this game, more than anything else, again, was the same old things which we talked about a million times. I said a few weeks ago about the wing backs. In this system that we play, I'm not going to rehash the tactical conversation because that's I've made my opinion very clear, and my opinion is I think we have to be a little bit more tactically flexible in this league if we want to be successful. Now, that's not my decision to do that. Interestingly, this week, Parky was quoted in The Leader, I think. He said something along the lines of, him and his coaching staff were going to have to look at all elements, personnel, playing staff, and the way we play. Whether that was a little nod to looking at some alternatives, I don't know. I'll believe it when I say it because he, fundamentally he has his beliefs, he has his way of playing, and that's what he'll live and die by, and that's fair play. That's what he chooses to do. But like I said a couple of weeks ago, for this system to be successful, your wing backs have to play very well in both directions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what we've seen so far this season is our wing backs are struggling. And the problem then is if your wing backs are struggling, because your three that are left at the back then get stretched, incredibly stretched. It leaves massive amount of space in behind. And when you've got pace and power, which we're coming up against week in, week out in this division, we are going to, and we are getting punished. And that, for me, this game just highlighted that same old problem. You said it yourself when you're doing your little intro. The midfield being kind of non-existent again. It's just getting bypassed. Those massive gaps again in between the midfield and the forwards, and the midfield and the defence. When I said there about pace and power from an opposition point of view, if you remember back to the beginning of the summer, I think it was Les Reed, wasn't it? He did an interview with somebody, and then I think Parky said it himself that when their main aim when they were doing their recruitment this summer was pace and power. And when I heard that, like I think when a lot of us heard that, it was like happy days, because I think we all universally accepted that pace is something we've lacked in our team for a long time, and that physical power and strength is something that we know we need in this league. And I think there are elements of some of the players that we've signed that tick those boxes, but the vast majority of them probably don't. You know, Josh Windass, you wouldn't attribute pace and power to him. Nathan Broadhead, yes, he's quick and he's tricky.
Maybe power, not pace. Maybe power. He's quite chunky. He's quite a chunky lad.
Yeah, but you know, I think some of the players that we've signed don't really tick those boxes.
No.
And at the moment, you know, if you look at the likes of, and I'm reluctant to kind of pick individuals out, but you get to a point where you kind of have to, because if I can see it, surely the coaching staff can see it. So I think Matthew James is struggling in this championship. You know, his footballing quality is undeniable, even at the age he is. But physically, he is struggling to manoeuvre himself around the pitch. And in that defensive midfield position that he plays, in the system that we play, it's an integral part of the team, and he's getting found out. James McLean, who I've mentioned him over the last couple of weeks. He looks like he's really struggling to me. You know, you've got to ask yourself the question. There's a reason why he dropped down from the Championship two seasons ago to come to us in the first place. He was brilliant in League Two. He was brilliant in League One. He looks to me like he's struggling a bit, you know, in the Championship. Again, in that wing back position.
You've mentioned those two players, but we have answers now. Ben Sheaf is the answer to Matty James, and obviously he's new, and that's fair enough. You can do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kikache is the answer to McLean. The fact that at the moment he seems to be made of tissue paper is not helping, because he seems to be going down with a different injury. But obviously, in the second half, Parky swapped Longman over to that wing and brought Barney on to cover the right wing. Isn't that the answer from the start?
Well, ultimately, you hope that the answer is that. Yes, we have the personnel to hopefully improve in these areas where we're getting penalised at the minute. Obviously the decision needs to come from Parky as to when to make those changes and if to make those changes. You know, we know he's very fond of Matty James. He's been very loyal to him. You know, we know he's very fond of James McLean, but I think, you know, we're at a stage now where those loyalties are going to be tested, because he needs to be ruthless. You know, he needs to be ruthless, because it's costing us now. You would hope that, going back to what I said before about this team coming together and gelling, and as time goes on now, you would hope that these players start to get match fit and start to find a rhythm. What are the answers on the wings? I don't know. Obviously, we've got Kabori. We've not seen him yet, so we don't know what he's got to bring. You know, Barnett and Longman have both had good minutes so far this season, but have been. I think they've struggled a little bit. I think Longman certainly hasn't looked as good as he finished last season, and again that beggars the question. Obviously, he came to us in January from Hull, who were in the Championship. You do ask yourself the question, why did they let him go? You know, and Barnett, whilst I think he's done all right, considering he's moved up again to a level he's never played at before, I'm not sure whether he's the answer long term. I don't know. So you would hope, or you would assume, that Kikache on the left and Kabori on the right, that those are the ideal case. Everybody's fit to the first choice wing backs are going to be, and it may be some weeks before we're in a position that we get to see that combination. I don't know, but in the interim, in the meantime, we've got to find a way of dealing with the wing backs as an area, as a problem. You know, the same with the midfield. But these are all things for Parky. So I mean, you know, this game in particular, it was the 3 goals were disappointing to concede. I mean, the first one was
we gifted 2, and one was, you know, down to the fact is that nobody seemed to want to put a foot on Kone to actually stop him. I'm not saying taking it away, and let's not take anything away. QPR absolutely deserved this win.
And that second one, though, it's a wonder strike. I mean, the strike is clinical.
Thunder bastard is what it was. Another Thunder bastard.
Definitely Thunder bastard. But, you know, QPR's back four soaked up a huge amount of pressure. You know, not that we were particularly, you know, toothy at the front, but they did what they needed to do at ease.
But this is that whole thing, isn't it? It comes back down again to the way that we're set up and the way that we play. You said something in your intro, which is absolutely spot on. QPR worked us out. And at this level, the quality of manager that we're coming up against every week, they will have us figured out. If we don't adapt the way of playing beyond what we've been used to over the last few years, they will have us figured out before we even cross that line, and we'll become very, very easy to play against. As we've seen already this season, you're absolutely spot on. QPR worked us out very quickly. They had pace, which we couldn't handle. They had power, which we couldn't handle. They had to move the ball around quickly, which we struggled with. I mean, the other concern as well is kind of the lack of quality chances we created. I know the stats say we had 21 shots and 8 of those on target. To be honest, there weren't an awful lot. I don't recall from watching the game. Tested their goalkeeper. The thing that we've got to remember with all this is it got to be patient. We've got to be patient with time. It's going to take time. It's disappointing because I think we're all a little bit frustrated with the performances that we're seeing. But I think we've just got to give it a bit patient and give it some time. But there are things that need addressing, and what you hope to start to see is some improvement. Defensively, we've been poor this season, and that's a concern because as the games are going by, I'm not really seeing any improvement. You said about Conor Cody there. I mean, I think we were all chuffed a bit when he signed. Don't get me wrong. I am happy that he's at the club, but so far, he's looked out of sorts. He looks to me like he's struggling. I mean, that goal, the third goal that they scored, I mean, I honestly thought he was wearing the new Adidas breeze blocks, to be honest, because he looked like he had concrete on his feet. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm wearing the Adidas shirt today, the Wrexham Adidas shirt today. That's quite ironic that you said that. The thing is, I could see it happening when I was sitting. Where I sit, obviously, you know where we sit on that. I could see it as the ball was coming over. I could see Conor Cody, and I'm thinking, he's not busting a gut. Does he not realise there is a guy absolutely on him? And I just turned to David and I went, "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" And I don't know what was worse for me. And maybe you, Jamie, can say what you think is worse. The fact that Conor Cody was completely and utterly outpaced, but didn't seem to be busting a gut to get to the ball first, or what Okonkwo did, i.e. he took some steps back, then took some steps, then paused, then took some steps forward. Instead of, you're just thinking, if it's Ward, would Ward have done it differently? I thought, yes. Daz, would you think Ward would have done it differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There was a weird sort of hesitation, and then he just invited the lob, then didn't he? But I can also think, if I was Arthur, I'd be thinking the same thing as you about the defense. Where was the defense? Why has he got to that point? But he he looked pacey. I mean, Conor's not necessarily known for his pace. That goal scorer was fast.
Thorough. Yeah, and you know what as well? He's come from Burton Albion. Where was he? Where have we not seen him? Incredible. The
thing is, you're right. He was rapid, but you would look at that situation when you play it back, and you would say to yourself, given the fact that the ball's come over the top from a distance, given the fact that Conor Cody had a good head start on him, and his experience, you would assume of reading the game, and then you throw into the mix the fact that Arthur can see this ball coming over the top and should be able to read the situation. Between the two of them, you would like to think that is a situation that just gets cleared away, picked up by the goalkeeper, whatever it is. But it was a calamity, and it was just poor. It's poor, but they're all things really which can be worked on, can be improved on. But it's how long is it going to take? That second goal as well. You've got to give credit where credit's due. Like I said, absolute. A brilliant strike, and if you were the attacking team and your team had scored that goal, you'd be chuffed to bits because it was a brilliant move from our perspective, from a defensive perspective. It was awful. The fact that it's gone through literally from back to front, it's had 3 touches of the ball and then is in the back of the net is crazy. But yeah, look at it.
If any of you get the chance, go and hunt out Racecourse Ramble, because he does breakdowns on the match, and he does a brilliant half an hour, 40 minutes of breaking it down, and his dissection of that step by step is superb, because you can exactly see where the problems are, and you're thinking, yeah, certain people are going to get an absolute roasting, and you can see on his breakdown there are so many of the defence that are way out of positions and way too far forward. Doyle way out of position. You know, there's just you're just thinking, what is going on? So go and have a look at that. I'm not going to do it because I can't do that bit, but go and have a look at that. Right, I'm gonna open. Sorry, Jamie, do you want to finish on something?
No. I was just going to say just to try and sort of pick a positive out. Kiefer Moore again.
Positive? Nobody told me there was a positive.
Kiefer Moore again with another goal. I mean, he's become absolutely priceless to us already, hasn't he? And I think
that's a danger for me. That's a danger.
Well, it is a massive danger. We talked about that last week. But the fact that he's managed to get himself another goal is a positive. I think there's a real onus on. We've got to adapt the way we play in this league. That to me seems a very obvious thing. I think we're going to if we persist to play the way we've played for the last few years, even with the quality players that we've brought in. I think I'm not saying we're going to go down, but I think we're going to. It's going to be a tough season. I think we're going to struggle because, the way you summed it up was perfect. Teams will work us out very quickly, and will have various ways to play against this system to beat it. You wouldn't put QPR up there as one of the more tactical savvy teams in the league from a manager perspective and a player personnel perspective, but they made
totally
us look very. So
totally bosses. Need to speak about the elephant in the room. Then, obviously, it's an open question to both of you, but I'm directing it at Daz. A lot of stuff in the press this week about Parky, about lots of clickbait about Wrexham questioning Parky's future. Is Parky on his way out? Is Parky capable? Ryan, not you. Is Parky capable of managing at this level? How can he take £30 million and have such a bad start? All the stuff that you usually see.
Is there? I haven't seen it.
No, exactly. And to be fair, if you look at the Fearless and Devotion who put out their pod last night, who had Sean Harvey on, Sean Harvey straight away said it's utter clickbait. We haven't discussed anything to do with Parky's future. We're backing him all the way. So that's that. But we have to ask the question of fans because, as you rightly said, Jamie, we're playing the same way pretty much as we played last year, just with different players. We're having the same defensive problems as we had towards the end of last year with different players. The common denominator here is the format and the ethos that these players play around. So, Daz, is Parky's number up? I.e., does he have a limited shelf life? And fans are right to be worried, or are we all massively overreacting, and just the press is grabbing hold of us and tickling our unfunny bones?
Right. So first of all, I was going to ask this question anyway because I've got a message here from a Mr. R. Clark, Cardiff City fan.
Oh, piss off, Clarky!
And no. Genuinely, right? Genuinely, he asked me. He said what he's worried about is that Cardiff are going to go up, and he doesn't want you to go down because he was looking forward to a season with particularly all three, because obviously he's got no love for the Jacks either. Being a genuine Bluebird. But his question was, he said, when you see sight, just say, are the club going to be just as ruthless with their manager as they've been with some of their quality players over the last couple of years? Because to be fair, your Fletchers or your Mullins and stuff like that. I know they're fan favourites, and form and age and all of these things. The club have been quite ruthless with some of your players and gone, we've got some new ones, we've got some better ones. Thank you very much, everybody else. Your time is done. I suppose the question that, and I genuinely, I haven't seen any of that clip. You know me, I'm not on socials. I genuinely have not read a single article about.
Well, let me give you an example. TalkSport, in their usual way, put out a thing saying, basically saying, strong rumours that the club are discussing Parky's future. right?
Yeah,
as a
so
head- as a
lovely.
headline.
Anybody can start a rumor. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
But
So
strong, for something like TalkSport to say that and say strong rumours, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon. Second tier podcast, who I am not a fan of at all. I think they have a massive agenda against us, considering that they're supposed to be speaking for every club in the second tier. I feel they have a massive agenda against us because they are, I don't know what it is, but I don't listen to them. To be honest, because I find them biased. Even they start jumping on the bandwagon, other people start jumping on the bandwagon. It's fine to discuss it openly, and I will happily discuss it with anybody. But when you're already having an agenda going in there, going, well, we think Parky's out of his depth. We think is different to what actually are the facts.
Yeah.
And when you start adding things in, pretending they're the facts, that's what annoys me.
No, but that's every transfer, rumor. That's every exit. That's every player coming in. That's rumors about, every club has got that. And rumor mills, they're the most ridiculous thing. They're agents stirring up contract, prices going up. There's press looking for some like you said, clickbait on their websites or readership on their, so all of that can easily be fabricated with just the words, heard a rumor. You don't have to substantiate it these days. It's all.
But isn't there a danger? Isn't there a danger of it becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy? If enough pressure goes on the manager where they can't concentrate on their job because they're too. I mean, today Parky was in his pre-game press conference. BBC Sport Wales basically were asking him about his future. 5 games in to the season, asking about his future, and you can't go in.
He's not alone in that, though. The number of managers who have to have those ridiculous questions.
It's rubbish. How are they supposed to concentrate on their job
exactly
when they're looking basically over their shoulder, going, well, they're having to deal with the constant pressure of, oh, you haven't won in 3 games, so that's you at the door.
That's the thing. But you're getting wound up by the press. You're getting wound up by these channels. You only have to look at when Big Ange won a European, Tottenham's first European title, and they're asking about his job in the interview on the pitch immediately after he's won a European competition. I just think press are digging and poking, and if you let it, it will get into your head. Now, I think Parky's been in the game long enough to know that he can avoid all of that. I think he can avoid all of that. He's obstinate and stubborn enough and old enough to know that he can ignore some of that. Now, if you've got somebody like Sean saying it's clickbait, don't listen to it, now he's closer to it than anything else. At that point, I think we just have to absolutely trust in the fact that he's not going to lie. Now, whether or not he's party to all decision making, whether or not he knows if Rob and Ryan are thinking differently, Rob and Ryan might be having their private little WhatsApp chat group going, what do we reckon? 2 more games, 5 more games, go till Christmas. Whatever the conversation is, they're entitled to do that because they've bought the right to do it. I absolutely agree. It's unfair. I'm pleased don't make it sound like I'm backing any of these naysayers. I just know it exists. It's part of the game, and I'm quite happy to ignore it all. And I think Parky is equally capable of doing all of that because he's done it too many times. Now, flip this around. I'm going to ask the question, which is, and I kind of asked it last week as well, which is, how long do you give him? Because at some point, this conversation is not about the case. For me, it's not a case of he's not up to the task or the club are doing so bad. For me, it comes to a point where if a run of games, a period of poor form suggests he is not capable of doing it, or whatever that is. Now, that I think that should be more than just 7 games, 10 games. I always think it should be a season and you do it at the end of the season. But I can see something maybe happening at around Christmas or New Year when there's a new window coming. And for many a club, they see that as an opportunity because the window makes a difference. Because there's no point bringing in a manager to just reshuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic. They always think that they can come in with some magic. Although we always know we get overpriced players then in the January sales. So it's not so much of a sale. So I get the fact that if the results and the form is consistently poor, then I think everybody has a legitimate question. Is he the man for the job? Now, at the moment, I'm not entirely convinced that the results are poor. I think the performances don't sound as poor. Now, you've got a couple of occasions there where you're saying they weren't at the races, and yet 60% of possession. That doesn't seem poor to me.
No,
The
no.
number of shots, okay, maybe not meaningful ones and on target. That doesn't feel poor. So I don't think they're a million miles away. And the severe shock that goes through a team when you get a new manager in isn't always a positive one. So I do think people have to be really careful about what they ask for. And I just think he's on just the wrong side of some of those decisions, some of those results. And I totally back. I'm with you. I think you back him. I think he's deserved the rights to begin with. Like Jamie said last week when he answered the question, it's not for you guys to say when he goes. It's probably for Parky to decide. But he'll probably know if he's struggling, whether or not by mutual consent or anything like that. But I think he's also the kind of player, he's probably the kind of manager that goes, I just need time with these new players. I just need new time to bed them in. You
can't bring in 13 new players, can you? Just go, poof,
no,
there you go, and off you go. They're not machines. They need to work out how to play with each other.
And if you think about how many from the current starting 11 were regulars current starting 11 last season, so it's not even about the fact that you've strengthened the squad across, but you've still got a core that is, Palmer, Mullin, or a Fletcher or whatever. I'm picking names at random there, but you know what I mean. But stalwarts that are still good and are still cutting it at that level, and then you can boost to the team around it. It feels that what Wrexham have done is like we absolutely peaked with the team that we had in the previous level. We surprised everybody else, and we needed to boost a lot of positions at the same time. Well, that's not the usual way of boosting a team. You normally have a core that's been part of that thing.
Well, Sean Harvey last night on the Fid Pod, and go and find it if you haven't found it. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It actually is a superb podcast with tons of information about all the new signings and the thoughts behind the club. Go and hunt that out. It's well worth a listen. I was stuck on Newport train station at 10:30 last night waiting for a train because they'd all stopped working because the signals had. So I had a lovely hour to kill to listen to that. But he basically said last night, this transfer window for Wrexham has been seismic. You will not see this again until we get to the Premier League, because it won't happen again. And he always has the adage of any building any team is over 3 transfer windows. It's a 3 transfer window process before you start to get all the pieces in the right place. And we're basically, because of the back to back, we basically haven't had that chance to do 3 windows, because we do a window, we go up a division, and then we have to do some major restructuring to then get as a team good enough to compete at that level, and then we get that, and then we go again. So you totally get that. Jamie, I'm not going to ask you the question, is Parky the right manager, because I don't want you to get pelted by stuff
more
like
abuse.
You normally do. Yeah, more abuse.
Yeah, get more abuse. Yeah.
But how much leeway do you think Parky has with the club? I'm talking about Rob and Ryan specifically, because obviously I'm sure they're very, very fond of him. They've backed him to the tune of 30 million plus. How much leeway do you think he's got?
It's a very difficult question to answer, isn't it? We don't know is the ultimate the ultimate thing. I think there's a couple of things to probably. There's a couple of elements that are quite interesting, I think. One is go back to the first series of the documentary, where they had that episode where they discussed this in that first season. So, it's obviously something that they're aware of as owners of a football club. There comes a point where you have to probably have a conversation, and like I say, the fact that it was documented in that documentary, it's not, if that would have turned around in that and been, look, we've picked him, we've brought him in, he's our man regardless, end of. But they did have a conversation in the early days, so it's obviously something that they're aware of as football owners. The other element, huge element, is the financial side of this. We know that the commercial side and the revenue and the money involved in football is massive, and it gets more and more and more the higher you go up. And we know from our point of view the kind of money we're talking about now. There's a huge amount, I would say there's probably a huge amount of financial, maybe reliance is the wrong word, but you probably know what I mean when reliance on being in the Championship. We've just invested massively in a squad overhaul. That's not just the 30 odd million in transfer fees. Our wage bill, I think, will have gone through the roof. As you alluded to on that podcast, Sean Harvey confirmed that there's a lot of other potential additional payments on a lot of those transfer fees, which could be triggered, which it would be great because it mean we're being successful. Obviously, the COP, the training ground, all these other things which you've talked about a million times. It's all going to need money, So there's a commercial element to our performance as well. So that may be a factor. I don't know. My gut feeling is I think they will be very loyal to Parky. I think purely because of what he's achieved. And he's been with us, unprecedented back-to-back promotions, which will probably never be done again. Yes, okay, he had the resources. You have to always remember that it's not like he's not had any funds. It's not like he's not. We've invested heavily through the leagues, but he still had to buy the right players. He still had to get them in harmony. He still had to get them playing a certain way. He still had to get the results. Go back to last season. I don't think any Wrexham fan would honestly say, if they're being truthfully honest, that we deserved to be promoted automatically based on our performances over the course of the season. However, I think we kind of took advantage last season of the fact that there were some other big name teams in the league that were having problems or issues or an off season, and we took advantage of it. Happy days. It is what it is. But I think just purely because of what he's achieved, he will have credit in the bank. How long that is, who knows? Some people say, he's got to be given a season, this, that, and the other. I just don't know, because you don't know, like Dad says, you don't know what conversations are being had internally. And the bottom line is that's their conversation to have, not ours. There are fans that will and have already jumped on we need to get rid of Parky. As I clearly said a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Parky, and I got shit for it. I'm not sitting on the fence. I've been very open about my opinion in that I struggle sometimes with the way we play football. And as I've been talking about today with the QPR game, I think in this division, if we don't develop a more dynamic way of playing, we are really going to be up against it. But I will never jump on a bandwagon of Parky out, get rid of him, get somebody else in. If the club make that decision, then so be it. But I am a Wrexham fan. I will support the team, whatever. Yes, I will get frustrated when I watch a game or I go to a game if we play poorly. I wasn't at the QPR game. When I watched it back, I was frustrated watching it, as I'm sure you would have been stood in the stand watching it. It wasn't a great performance, and what I want to see as a fan is improvement. I want to see things improve. I want to see us defend better. I want to see us attack, better, create better chances, score more goals, win more games. Yes, of course I want that, but I'm never happy now saying XYZ out, XYZ out. That's the club to decide that, not me. But can I discuss and can I have an opinion on the style of play that we have? Of course I can, as anybody can. And I've been very sort of honest about that. But to answer your question about how long, how much kind of credit has he got in the bank? I think he's probably got a good amount purely because of what he's achieved in the last few years. You'd have to be just them, but obviously they're the kind of the spearhead of it. But they've proved over the years that they have a very different approach to football club ownership, don't they? And that might be the case with this, where you look at Sheffield United as a good example in our league this season. They've 5 games in, they've got rid of Ruben Sellers and brought back Chris Wilder for the 76th time. Now the bottom line is, they shouldn't have got rid of it at the end of last season. You talk about the ruthlessness of football. He took the team to finish third in the championship on, what was it, 90 points, was it, or 89 points, or something like that?
I think
which was unbelievable. It just so happened, unfortunately, in that one season, there were 2 other teams that broke the 100-point barrier, which is unbelievable in itself. And then, as we well know, with playoffs, they are a complete lottery. That's a good example of why I don't like playoffs, because you've a whole season where you've been the 3rd best team in the league and you've ended up losing in the playoffs, and you've got to stay in that division. But the fact they got rid of him after such a good season last season, to me, was crazy in the first place. and they've been. I mean, he must be absolutely laughing his nuts off because he would have got a nice payout at the end of last season. He's had a lovely extended summer holiday, and now he's just had another bumper 3-year contract to go back and sort it out. And he will. He will sort that out, and he'll turn them around, and they'll be right up there come the end of the season. I guarantee it. But that's a good example of the ruthlessness of football. That they've got rid of Ruben Sellers after 5 games. Yes, they've been dog shit, to be fair, and they've shipped goals left, right, and centre and barely scored any. They've had to be decisive. This is a completely different scenario, and I who knows? If I guess let's have a look at it in 10 games time, in Christmas time, see where we're at. If we're hovering above the relegation zone, we're struggling to pick up points. Who knows? The conversations may have, but do you know what? We're not going to know about it anyway. And all these clickbaity podcasts and Book Sports and all these other online publications who claim to have sources here, I'm not going to believe a single one of them until something comes out from the club officially, because we'll never know. Being out, so. Yeah.
Well, 24 hours later, and the Stoke Kairos saw another Wrexham team, except this time it was Wrexham Women who were hosting Barrytown Women in the Adran Premier League. Lineup first as one change with Snape coming in for Allen, who obviously went off injured in the first week. Any surprises there for you with regard to that starting 11 compared to the game versus Britain Ferry Llansamble?
No, I don't think there's. You've got all the players that consistently, delivered. New signings, mixture of new signings. The Joneses and all of that. It was a solid team, as what you would expect, and so nothing surprising there for me.
Well, Wrexham started strongly. 3 minutes, in fact, it took to pretty much the first corner or second corner. Jolie Bartle scoring from a scrambled-in corner to make it 1-0 to Wrexham. 25 minutes, and Hannah Snape turned the defence on the edge of the box. A brilliant turn to wrong foot 2 defenders, and then a wicked kind of curl shot right past the Barrytown keeper, who obviously wasn't their standard keeper because their number 1 keeper had been sent off the week before, and rather than them put in the normal number 2 keeper, who is an 18-year-old, they put in a midfielder who has played in goal for Barrytown before, and to be honest, you could see at times that was the case. Although obviously we'll talk to our goalkeeping expert in a second about what she did wrong, because I'm sure he's got a lot to say, because he always does, because he hates goalkeepers, really, really, really hates them. But a fantastic goal by Hannah Snape to make it 2-0, and Wrexham looked really, really comfortable at half time, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is great, exactly what we see. Confidence, poised, great skill, some fantastic runs down the wing, brilliant. Second half, they forgot to come out of the dressing room by the looks of it. Barry really seemed to ramp up the pressure, press more. 48 minutes, Phoebe Davis own goal. I'm sorry, Phoebe. I am so sorry. I will keep my big, fat mouth shut in future. I promise. But she did basically die as the ball was coming into Liz Craven. She kind of dived in front of it to try and clear it, but just basically hit it into her own goal to make it 2-1 to us. And then 54 minutes. Daz, I'm looking at you for this one. 54 minutes. The ball was played back to Liz Craven to play out from the back. And what happened next, Daz?
Do you want the honest opinion here?
Yes, absolutely.
I haven't seen that goal.
Oh, okay, great.
So,
well, basically,
no, but I've read it. So,
okay.
But yeah, go on. You explain. You're going to explain.
Well, she took the ball, and obviously tried to play it as goalkeepers do these days.
Tried to do an Allison and then got caught out.
Touched it way too heavy, got caught out. Kira Harris basically pounced on it, rounded her quite easily, and just put it into an open goal to make it 2-2. Pressure was on then, really, but the Wrexham Women didn't lose their heads. They kept to what they've been training on, obviously, and what the plan was. Jenny Sugarman made some changes, and then 88th minute, Snape from a corner, curling it directly into the goal. It was attributed by the score app to Angharad Abiman on goal, but it went beautifully in for Wrexham to get that third goal in the 88th minute and to make it 3-2. Wrexham finished the week top of the league, equal with Daz, Aberystwyth Town, get in, unbeaten. Unbeaten this season as well. Who'd have thought? I mean, we're basically both happy on this one because Wrexham and ABBA are top of the league. So you can't fault that. Daz, again, I don't know what you've seen. Whether you've seen the highlights package, you said you hadn't seen the second goal, and trust me, when you watch it back, you will understand why I was kind of pointing at you to talk about it. But
no, I read it. So for full disclosure, I had to work Sunday, not my day job, but I was I'm on the board of trustees, and there was an event I had to go and attend on Sunday, so I missed all the football on Sunday. So that's including Liverpool game, the Manchester derby. I caught up with that one afterwards, but I did step out and I had a bit of a break, and I caught a lot of the first half on my phone because I was watching it on the Scorio app. So there's me trying to watch it. So I did watch a little bit of the first half. So it was already 1-0. I think I saw the second goal in, and then that was all first half, I think. And then I had to pack it up and get back to do some charity work, mate. So yeah, and what I saw at that stage. So if you want my opinion of the first half, I thought they seemed to be very much in control. There was good passages of play, all that positivity we've seen from the week before, some really good quality touches. Mahmoud looks an amazing prospect. What a great signing there, but you've got stability at the back in terms of Bartle. And so, I just think what was really exciting was it seemed to pick up from all the positives from the week before. Yes, you can lose momentum, certainly, after, it doesn't matter how much positivity there is, 2-0, but an own goal and the timing of the own goal, of course, can completely swing a match. And so from what I was reading, it was a bit unfortunate, a bit of miscommunication. That kind of thing happens. It's not quite a Conor Cody own goal. This one was, a meaningful effort to try and intercept and stop and break, it was intent, but wasn't able to deliver. That's very different. Just being bouncing around and fumbling around on the 6-yard line. So you got to feel for it a little bit in that sense. And obviously, if I'd known you were the hex and the jinx, then I would have got some sort of holy water out and something and just. But no, it's so. Yeah, bless her, Phoebe. It's not her usual.
So I'm sorry. I am so sorry. She's even started following us on Twitter, and I now want to say to her, no, don't follow us. We're obviously a really, really bad influence, and we apologise from that point of view.
But obviously, yes. From what I read about Lizzie Craven's attempt at playing out. Now, I'm going to say she's done it before. It's not the first time. It's a couple of times she's done it and she's got away with it. She has done it before and not got away with it. And this time again, now it's happening again. So there is an element of, I don't know if she's actively encouraged to do it because that's the way keepers play. Or
well, you look at Jenny Sugarman, the way she set this team up. It is that kind of much more modern football feel about it, where that defender does become a part of the defense backline rather than being just a shot stopper.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling it's part of the plan that she becomes that middle person.
But there's also risks with that because you're drawing that goalkeeper to come out onto the edge of the box and always play high. And of course, if the ball gets played through the midfield, suddenly you get a turnover. You're not anywhere near your goal line, and I'm not saying Lizzie's slow, but she's not the fastest goalkeeper I've seen in terms of a straight sprint.
You really hate goalkeepers, don't you? Wow.
No, it's just facts. Wow. Like, get them all in a race and then tell me otherwise, all right? God, blimey. I'm trying to be nice here. I'm saying the management decision is like, are you playing the right tactics?
No, you're right.
With the component parts that you've got. Now
you're right.
Now, but what you've got to say is that this team does have spirit. Every report I've read is like they battled, and almost as much as it might have been attributed to an own goal, you can argue that it was because of the quality of the corner, but the persistence, and you've got to credit the persistence. And if there's anything a Liverpool fan can share in this discussion is you have to love a team that keeps going to the end, because late goals is what it's all about, baby. Late goals every time.
It seems to be for Liverpool this season, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that.
But every pundit, when you're talking about, and obviously I watch and listen to a lot of conversations about Liverpool because that is my team, and everyone's saying about the fact that it's that persistent, you're battering at the, trying to knock the door down, and you don't give up, and you just keep going. Then you make your own luck. It's like, okay, Burnley handball, we get a penalty, but that they were, so anyway, what I'm saying is that's an example of persistence and perseverance. You make your own luck. It's amazing how many good teams are lucky, and so I always think that if you keep trying, you keep going, and putting the team under pressure, keeping their heads up, and not letting the fact that they got 2 goals down. I think the wobble, the worry was the wobble after the own goal, where they allowed Barry to get some hope. What you don't do is let teams to get hope like that. And again, from a Liverpool supporter who watched the game last night, the last thing you do is you give it a 2-0 lead and you give them hope, and it can rock you, and it can rock you completely.
Or if you're Nottingham Forest against the Jacks, going up 2-0 up and then letting them in to score 3-2. I mean, that's just mad.
It is mad.
Poor Ange. Ange. I mean, you could see his face on the bench. He literally was just shaking his head, and you're just thinking, those boys are going to get such a rollicking when they get in that dressing room. They're going to get such a rocket.
What I was interested to know is I haven't it's interesting that it was. The starting 11 was the same as before, or pretty much the same as before. So there was a bit of stability and stuff like that. But it's interesting about what did you make of any? I didn't read any results on the impact of any substitutions. So obviously we're big fans of Idden. We've got Rosie Hughes. We've got Lovett. We've got Did any of those players come on? Did they make the difference? Did they add to that pressure at the end?
Yes, Rosie and Abby both came on. And yes, they both made a difference. We got much more. We got much sharper up front. Definitely, I think it was, rather than it being the players that they replaced, they are better players coming on. I think it was just that extra impetus of energy, and you could see they had that kind of right. We're now back up against the wall. We need to put our positive energy all as one team. And that's exactly what happened, because we pretty much battered them for the last. For the last 10 minutes, and the corner came from that continual battering that we were doing. I mean, they had that initial time where they got back to 2-2, and then I think obviously Wrexham then woke up, and they then realised, okay, we need to really push here, and there was a lot of pressure from that point of view on Wrexham. Jamie, I mean, great. First of all, sorry, Daz, what are you putting in Aberystwyth's water?
I mean, I don't think there was any doubt. I just, I think this
smack TNS on the nose 1-0. That's pretty good.
It is. I mean, I think to give Aberystwyth credit, they were always a hard team to beat. When they can be very dogged, they can be a solid defensive unit. And from what I can understand of the Aberystwyth game against TNS, TNS had their chances. They gradually grew back, grew into the game, but Aber had a good strong start. And Aberystwyth's backline is solid. I mean, they've not conceded a goal yet. So the fact is, they're arguably the form team in that sense. Solid at the back, and 2 results from 2. So yeah, I mean, this is such a world away from the fact that we were struggling to get any points last year. So if the season finished now, we're already better off.
I was going to say, it's already an improvement. I mean, Jamie, 650 at the racecourse. So great that it was at the racecourse. Great that the women got to play there. Obviously, as Dad said, that positive energy got us over the line. But were you a little bit concerned the fact that we gave away 2 really, really scrappy goals, similar to the week before? The 2 goals we gave away to Britain Ferry. All right, one of them was, cross come shot, but Craven didn't cover herself in glory by not being able to get it out the goal. And obviously the first goal was again down to a goalkeeping back pass error. Are you concerned that we're giving away too many mistakes that might catch us in the end?
It will be a little bit of a concern for Jenny Sugarman. But having said that, most of the goals that we've conceded so far have been down to errors, mistakes, lapses in concentration on our part. And the good thing about that is those are things that can be improved. Those are things that can be, ironed out of the game. It's not like we've been getting undone by mega plays of, from the opposition. So the fact that they've been more down the mistake and poor judgment route, you would hope that there can be an improvement there. I think Daz made a great point before about the noticeable difference in this team and the kind of mentality. It's very much like the men's team of like 3 years ago. When they're never beaten, and they they kept going, and like you say, to be fair, in that last sort of certainly 5, 8, 10 minutes, they were absolutely peppering the goal, and you could only see one thing happening. I can't believe Rosie Hughes tried to claim that goal, I'll be honest. So that's the ultimate cheek.
Well, but it's the thing, you see, everybody, but did she? I think what she did was, I think she ran off to the fans, because she went to the fans, right? And I think she was expecting everybody else to follow her. And one player followed her, and then the other players all went in the opposite direction, and they had a little. I don't think she was claiming it. I think she was just celebrating it, because, again, having spoken to her on Saturday, she is super positive at the moment. She really is. She was basically saying, it's we're a really together squad at the moment. We see nothing but positives. We are going to absolutely play for the badge. Not that we ever haven't, but we've now got that extra impetus of having, very, very high quality players and a real sense of togetherness. And I think that's all it is. I think it's just positivity. I don't think for 1 second that she rolled off to try and claim the goal, because she'd have known that with all the Scorio cameras there, they would have seen that anyway. But I really do. I think that's a little bit. If some people were saying that, I know that. I think that was utter rubbish, to be honest.
Okay,
I'm just saying how it was. That's all.
No, it looked. I mean, my take on it was it looked like she was trying to claim it. But if that's not the case, then I apologise. But yeah, I think you're wrong, and I think she was trying to claim it.
Okay, good. Right. Well, you can tell her that next time you see it. If you ever to meet.
I won't get to see it, will I? Because obviously I don't get to meet these players. No,
you get to meet those players because you're not in that kind of band of people exactly.
No.
Now on the Eat More Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Wrexham Academy under-18s played Doncaster Rovers under-18s at home and drew 4-4. Sounds like an absolute ding-dong battle of a game, with Wrexham goals from Carrick Murphy, a Sammy Chesworth penalty, Umar Nawaz and Julian Wiedecki Estina scoring the 4 Wrexham goals. Wrexham finished the week third in the table, 4 points off Grimsby Town at the top, but with a game in hand. Next Saturday, they play versus Lincoln City under-18s away. The under-17s as well, they also played in Group K of the Professional Development League Cup. And that's a cup very similar to the Virtue Trophy, as in it's a league system first, and then the top 2 go off to do knockouts from that point of view. They beat Sheffield Wednesday under-17s 2-0. I mean, incredible the fact that... and Sheffield Wednesday have an under-17s, so I'd imagine they're all playing for the senior side, I would think, at the moment. But they beat them 2-0. They also have games versus Huddersfield under-17s and Shrewsbury under-17s to come in the group stage before hopefully getting to the knockout stage. Jamie, not that we've heard anything, so I'm just imagining this, but from the club, nothing officially about a new PDP coach to replace Nick. A new academy manager has not been announced. Interesting rumours of the weekend, because Phil Jones was in Ryan's box in the game on Saturday. He's obviously been doing some work with the Manchester United under-18s. I'm sure they've been doing better than the seniors have. I don't know, because I don't look at their results. But apparently that's been kiboshed, saying no, he's nothing to do with that. Although I've heard that actually Michael Williamson would like him in to the academy to do some work with the under-18s. I mean, would he be... I'm not going to ask you yet, Daz, because you've got your own feelings on ex-Manchester United players, which we'll gather in a second. Would he be a good addition to the under-18s, do you think?
He'd be a good addition to show them how to create one of the best memes that's ever existed. When he's trying to header that ball.
I'm trying to recreate it, but I can't do a good enough job.
On paper, you'd have to say yes. He's played let me rephrase that. He was a part of a massive football club. He's part of a massive football club for a long period of time. So, he's been in. He was at Manchester United for a long time. He's played at the highest level. You would like to think that kind of level of experience and knowledge, being involved in our under 18s or our academy setup would be a positive thing. I know he's been doing his coaching badges and various things since he finished playing. So you'd have to say so. I don't really understand why there was so much clamour around the weekend because he was in there. I mean, like you say,
Michael apparently, and Michael invited him.
I was going to say, Sean Harvey again kiboshed it last night in that pod, didn't he? Where he said he literally was an invited guest of Mike Williamson. If somewhere down the line it turns out he ends up working at the academy, well, then maybe that's just a byproduct of the conversations that they've maybe had over a period of time. But let's not get like excited about the fact that he was in there. I mean, Jesus Christ, if Ryan had brought Jose Mourinho with him, then fair enough, because you'd be looking at it saying, well, Christ, what's going on here? But no disrespect, but it was Phil Jones. It wasn't.
No disrespect. Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, Phil. But But in all seriousness, regardless of what you thought of him as a player, he did play for Man United for a good period of time. He also absolutely creamed them towards the back end of his career from the point of view of like seeing out his last 3 years of his contract and never getting anywhere near the team. But he played at the highest level, so you'd have to say on paper someone like that coming into the academy would be a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I think anybody who's played at that level can bring that level of professionalism to the academy. So he knows what a top flight team's setup needs to be, whether it's the support behind the scenes, the infrastructure. So if you want to bring in knowledge of, and this was at a time when you had one of the most dominant teams in the country. So as much as we can joke about his part to play, the machine that is Man U, you can't deny that they could probably learn a lot from somebody who went through that system. And I think that's all I'm going to say about a Man U player.
Probably a good idea, yeah. Just stay out of it. Cheers. It's been announced that Rhian Wilkinson's Cymru will face Poland in Newport in October, which sees will mark the side's first return to Rodney Parade in front of a crowd since 2019. The match will take place on Tuesday, the 20th of October. The kickoff at 7:45 p.m. BST. Poland are ranked 26th in the world, and both teams featured in their first ever major tournament at this summer's UEFA Euro Finals. March 2016 was the last time these two sides faced each other, with a 1-1 draw in an international friendly match. Helen Ward was the goal scorer for Cymru. Last time Cymru played at Rodney Parade was in front of a crowd was in September 2019 against Northern Ireland during the Women's Euros 2021 qualifiers. Cymru have since played at Rodney Parade, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, these matches were played behind closed doors. The match will be the second fixture of the October international window, where Wilkinson's side will also face Australia at the Cardiff City Stadium on Saturday, 22nd of October, and tickets information will soon be released in due course. Daz, Poland, a good, nice, strong side for Rhian Wilkinson's women to take on.
Yeah, well, like you said, they also were debutants at the tournament, and that was a massive thing for them. In the same way, it was a massive thing for us. So they are on the up in the way that we're really buoyed and positive about our team. I mean, obviously, let's focus on the Cymru team that at the tournament. They were outplayed. They were completely outgunned. They were outplayed. They were in a group with teams consistently, way ahead of them. Poland probably more their level. What do you say? 28th in the rankings or something?
26th.
So that means a reasonable level of competition. I think that's going to be a really competitive game, well matched. They're going to be up for it. We'll be up for it. And yes, it follows after the other game at our more spiritual home of the CCS against an Australia side that what are they called? Matilda. No, they call them Matildas.
Matildas,
Like
yeah,
Matildas,
yeah.
You know, so that's going to be another interesting one. But you know, Rodney Parade, we've had good games there. I remember watching them playing England there many years ago and stuff like that. You know, it's a good crowd, you know, it's good because they've been to Wrexham, they've been to Swansea, or Llanelli, you know, so they have potentially looking at sharing where those games can be. So I think that's really good. But I think the competition, is a good level. So you know, it'll be interesting to see. But I think I'm also curious to see what Wilco's thinking is now in terms of squad and squad selection, and how some of the senior players do or don't return, and that's going to be a bigger talking point, I think.
Well, she said in the press that she can see a number of players that are very close to retirement. So I would imagine, definitely she was thinking about that. Speaking of spiritual homes, FAW CEO Noel Mooney held a press briefing this week and talked about some very interesting points. As part of the briefing, he said Cymru will return to playing at Cardiff's Principality Stadium in the build-up to Euro 2028. Cymru will co-host the Euros in 3 years' time alongside England, Republic of Ireland and Scotland. 74,500 capacity Principality Stadium is set to stage 6 games and is being tipped to be the venue for the opening fixture of that tournament, with Wales guaranteed to play there should they qualify. The men's national team have only played there once in 14 years, having adopted the smaller Cardiff City Stadium as their regular home, where Cymru lost 4-1 to Spain in front of 50,232 fans. Me and Daz were there in a friendly and in their most recent game at the Principality Stadium in 2018. Mooney says the FAW wants to ensure Wales benefit from home advantage. He said, I think we will have to look at it. To do well at Euro 2028, we will need to be used to that environment again, having not played there for a long time. Cardiff City Stadium will be our home, but we need and will look forward to playing there leading into 2028. Mooney also hopes Cymru games will be staged more often at the Stoke Caerhar as the stadium continues to be redeveloped. Work on a new cup stand would meet UEFA requirements to boost the capacity to 18,000. The racecourse is also set to be one of the 2 venues put forward as part of the UK bid for the Women's 2035 World Cup. Meanwhile, Mooney confirmed the FAW are in talks with its partners over a bid for the 2029 Women's Champions League final, also to be staged at the Principality Stadium. Daz, we remember some fond and not so fond memories of watching Cymru at Principality Stadium. Now, as you say, we're now used to Cardiff City Stadium being the home.
Yeah.
My only concern is filling it, because we know that the Principality, if it's not full, can be a little bit of a dead bowl. When it's full, hence when we beat Italy and our beautiful flag was unveiled to the world, it was a sold out. The atmosphere was incredible. When we played Russia in the playoffs later that year, the atmosphere was incredible. But we've also been there for friendlies against Krapistan, where, you know, it's barely a quarter full and it can be a little bit of empty bowl. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you've kind of hit the 2 points there for me. I think Noel's right that if we don't have, if we qualify and we then are guaranteed to play at that stadium and we're not used to it, then what is the advantage? You know, there's one thing about the fact that when England were in the Euros, you know, pretty much every round was, you know, they made it all the way to the final because the final was at Wembley, and you know, every game part one in Denmark or something like that, but every game was at Wembley. Oh, you know, the advantage they had during that tournament was vast. So they used to play at Wembley.
Still lost.
You know, I mean, you know,
What do you mean? It didn't come home?
Just saying, no, it didn't come home.
And
This is how shocked they were.
For those of you listening, it's a picture of Phil Jones's gurning face.
Yeah, back to the serious note. Right. So if we're going to qualify, if we're going to play there, if they say that that's where we're going to play when we qualify, then there is no home advantage because we're not used to it. So I get that as a principle. The flip side of that is, I know what you're saying. It's a really tough place to be when it's not full. And my worry is that we've got to qualify. And so in order to qualify, I would want to use all of our positive assets to their max to not guarantee, but maximize our potential to qualify. Well, that happens best at CCS. So I get the value, but I'm surely there's enough time to put some friendlies in between qualifying and the tournament if they were worried about that. Don't know, but the risk of having a deflated atmosphere at the time when you need them most during the qualifiers does seem foolish a little in my mind. But he's absolutely right. How do we make that transition? Now we've got the manager to help, though. Bellas knows what it's like to play there. Some of his finest games and results, as we know, the Bellamissimo goal of
watch the end of the pod, and you'll see him score that fantastic goal against Italy.
And some greats along the way. And we had results against Argentina, we've had results against Germany, we've had results against Italy. So we have done well there. Now, does that mean we've got a fan base that can fill 75,000? I mean, we know we have. We had it before, and we weren't even firing on all cylinders. You imagine we probably could have done it at our peak 2016 World Cup qualifiers. We probably could have filled the stadium then, but we knew the advantage was that intimate space, the connection between fan and player is not to be underestimated. So I've kind of given you a really long answer without giving you an answer.
Is the key then that when we get these friendlies, because they will be friendlies, they won't be qualifiers unless it's a really big team, is the key making sure we get a decent opponent like Brazil, for example?
Yeah.
If we play Brazil, you'll sell out the Principality Stadium.
I think when we opened the stadium, or when rugby opened it for some friendlies and the World Cup and stuff, but when Wales first played there, I think we had Finland and we sold out, and then we played, I think, Brazil or something. It was like the second or third ever game there was like Brazil, and it did sell out. Yeah. Now, what they did then, and my memory is not what it used to be, and we are going back 25 years, I seem to remember the tickets being something like a tenner.
Yeah, they were very cheap.
And so that's how you do it. Now, you will get the stalwarts saying, why is it cheap? Anybody will come along. You'll get the kids with the vuvuzelas, and you'll get, it'll be given to kids, and there's a group of fans that will not like it. They will not like it because the crowd that we have at Cardiff at the moment means that you know who you're sat next to. Everybody's got that. It's a real home feel about it.
Yeah.
If we then invite others who are not, they don't know how to do this yet, but we have to invite them. We have to include them. We have to get the kids in, and because when we
qualify, you sound like a Wrexham season ticket holder.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Is there a ballot?
But I just think we have to. Otherwise, when we do qualify, we want the people who have, we want people who watch the game to have some experience of watching them. You don't want them to go to the tournament and have the first experience of it. We want to have this energy, because all the other away fans are going to be proper away fans, and there's going to be huge energy in crowds and stuff like that. I mean, you only have to look at the Orange Army that comes with the Dutch. It's just, there's something about that. So we need to build up our own, build on the red wall. There you go.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. And more importantly, Daz, where do we put the flag? It's got to go back on the halfway line where it was 25 years ago, surely.
We'll try our best.
Kick the sleeping tramp off the doorstep and send him off with a steaming hot bag of chips. Yes, it's time for the chip shop. Daz and Jamie are ready with a smile and a waffle as we cook up 3 portions tonight. Thank you, Brian. Yes. Looking at last week's predictions, yes, we all did it fantastically well. Jamie, 4-0. Wrexham win. Nice one. Daz was a little bit more reasonable.
I'm still top.
Yeah, all right.
I'm still top.
I was the closest. I was
exactly. Game.
Technically, I was right, because I said 4-0, so that means there were 4 goals in the game. And there were 4 goals in that game.
Yes,
so
there were.
technically,
Yes, there were.
I was right.
Technically, you're an idiot. And obviously, Barry Town versus Wrexham. We all predicted a Wrexham Women win, and that's what we got. Although we didn't hit the bullseye. So no changes in the league positions. Jamie's still top, me second, Daz third. It's interesting when you look back. I looked back last night at how we were last 2 seasons. And we got so many more right than we have this season. So it just shows how difficult this year is compared. I mean, you don't know anything anyway. Now we know even less, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, well done us from that point of view. Anyway, first into the fryer tonight, it's Norwich City. So Saturday, 20th September, kick-off 3 p.m. BST at Carrow Road. Wrexham will play Norwich City. Norwich have been in the Championship since 1995 and have bobbled around between the Championship and Premiership for years, but always kind of around that top of the Championship, bottom of the Premiership kind of area. Last season in the Championship, they finished 13th with 14 wins, 15 draws, 17 losses, a goal difference of +3 and 57 points. So far this season, in the league, they've lost 2-1 at home to Millwall, won 2-1 away at Portsmouth, lost 2-1 at home to Middlesbrough, won 2-0 away at Blackburn, and drew 1-1 at Coventry City. They were also knocked out of the League Cup in round 2, 3-0 by Southampton. Transfer market, they spent a net 9 million profit by selling 14 players and bringing in 12. Most notable, probably centre-forward Matthias Kvistgarden from Bromby for just over £7 million, and left-winger Delia from FC Metz for just over £4 million. Wrexham and Norwich have played head-to-head 10 times before. Wrexham have only won once in those 10 times, drawn once and lost 8. The last game we played versus Norwich was at Carrow Road on the 6th of February, 1982. In this equivalent level of the league, we lost 4-0 on that day. In the side that day, and this is how long ago it was, Joey Jones was in defence, Steve Fox, Dixie McNeil was still playing, Ian Edwards and Steve Buxton. And the chips are done. Jamie, so tough away day game for Wrexham. First of all, selection. Are you expecting to see much difference to the selection we saw versus QPR on Saturday?
I would hope so. It's another one of them, isn't it? You can see it going either way. There's a part of me that would be surprised in the slightest if the team news drops, an hour and whatever it is before now, and we see, quite a few changes. I would hope that's what we'll see, because I think that's what we should be doing. I think there were enough. There were enough questions asked against QPR and in other games.
Well, let's answer those questions, shall we? Seeing as you're here, and that's what you're here to do. Back three. So obviously, Max, Cody, and Doyle currently. Would you see any of them changing, particularly of the comments we've made over Cody earlier on?
Well, if I get to pick, I go to a back four. That's just me. Back three. So I think he'll stick with the same back three. Personally, I would bring Hyman for Conor Cody. I'm not saying that we should write Conor Cody off already, but he struggled for me in the games he's played so far. He struggled. Now whether that's maybe a lack of match sharpness, because he wasn't playing regularly last season, I don't think, was he? I'm not sure whether it is just the fact that he's getting a little bit exposed at playing in the centre of a three, and he's missing a partner next to him. I don't know, but he struggled to me. And you've brought in a defender there in Don Heim who's played every minute of the Championship season for Blackburn last season, was their player of the season, by all accounts is a fantastically competent defender at Championship level. To me, that makes a lot of sense.
So let's look at the wing backs then. Obviously, Parky came out with the news that Kakache is now going to be out for a number of weeks with a new injury. So that means he can't be selected. So who are you expecting to see on the wings? Are we going to see McLean again? Are we going to see Kokore coming in on the? Apparently, he can play left and right. He obviously normally does right, but he can play left. What do you think?
Me personally, I would put Longman on the left and I put Kabore on the right. I've seen a few people suggest this week about possibly bringing Lewis Brunt back in onto the left side of the back three and moving Doyle out as a left wing back. I'm not totally against that. My only concern with that is that I think you've got to be a wing back, you've got to be mobile. And I think that is the one criticism I've heard about Doyle from previous clubs he's been at, is everybody raves about him defensively, raves about his passing from the back, his distribution. But the one criticism that seems to follow him around wherever he goes is lack of pace and lack of mobility at times. So as a wing back, I think that would concern me. So me personally, I would go with Kabore on the right, and because I think that's I know you're right, he can play on both sides, but I think his preferred side is the right. So I would play him on the right, and I play Longman on the left, because we've seen Longman play on the left a couple of times, and he's actually been really effective.
Well, he swapped over second half for QPR, and it seemed to work for me better than having McLean there. I mean, obviously,
I think. Sorry, I was just going to say, but what I think he will do is I think he'll stick with McLean. I think he'll stick with McLean on the left, and I think the right will depend on.
I mean, you've got to trust in the manager, of course you have, and there have been times, haven't there, where we've seen the team selection, we've gone, what is he doing? And he comes up smelling roses. But it's not going to help his cause, is it, Daz? Let's be honest. If we can see what they obviously can see, and then he still maintains putting that player in that position, he's not going to do himself any favours, is he?
No. And I don't know. I mean, he's obviously seen something, and we don't see them every day in training.
No.
And so,
I mean, have had a full week's training this week, which is obviously going to help for the new players as well. So
but the thing is, they'd had 2 weeks. They'd had 2 full weeks of training, minus a few players who were away on internationals. But the crux of that team and squad stayed at the club for 2 weeks when we had an international break. And when they played that game against QPR, it looked like they hadn't seen each other for a month.
On the beach, I think, to be honest. What about midfield, Jamie? Obviously, because you've said yourself, Matty James, you feel is struggling. Do you take him out and you put Hyam in?
For me, that's the one that will really surprise me. I know he likes Matty James. I know he's been loyal to him already so far. But for me personally, I think the stage he's at in his career, playing in this system, I think he's getting found out, if I'm being honest. And we've invested big in a defensive midfielder there in Sheaf. I think you have to keep Dobson in the team. I think he's arguably been our best player this season.
Yep,
agree. Which is crazy.
Lovely surprise. Lovely surprise.
Which is crazy to say when you consider that he's never played at this level before, and is the only sort of, other than Arthur, Arthur and Max, he's the one that's sort of carried on in the team. I think you couldn't take him out of the team at the minute because he's been our best player. So to me, it would make sense to have Sheaf, Dobson, and O'Brien as your 3 in the midfield.
And Parky said that Windass will be travelling. So does he start or does he bench? And if so, then where does he go? Do you put him up front with Kiefer Moore, or where does he go?
I'm always a little bit nervous with players coming back from hamstring injuries. It's one of those injuries that we've seen so many times over the years reoccur very quickly if they've not, if it's not been been done right, but if they come back too soon. If he's fit and if he's fit and he's had a good week in training, I suspect he will put him straight back in, because again, I think prior to getting injured in those first couple of games of the season, he was arguably the best of our new signings. I think maybe O'Brien at that point was doing well, and obviously since Kiefer Moore has probably been the standout. But I think I would, if he's had a good week, I think he'll put him back in. So it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. All I would say is I would be disappointed if he sticks with Hardy. I think if Nathan Broadhead is fit, if Windass is fit, it's a bit unfair on Hardy, really. it's a bit unfair on Hardy, really, because I think he has struggled. He has struggled to have any kind of influence, really, other than that world he scored against Preston. In any other games he's played, he's struggled to really have an impact. But I don't think it's his fault. We're asking him to play in a way which is completely against what he's good at. He's a channel runner, and we're not playing him like that. So personally, obviously, working on the basis we're going to persist with our normal formation, I suspect that I'd be disappointed if he sticks with Hardy. I'd rather see a Windass or a Broadhead playing off Kiefer Moore.
As you said earlier, rightly so, that when you look at it, the performances of Wrexham have been really good. So it's not the question of what's more important, the performance or the result, because the performances have been really, really good. But with the increased pressure on Parky, do Wrexham now need to get something out of this game against what is, one of the top teams in this division, one of the top teams of British football, even without Delia Smith and her fantastic cooking?
Fantastic as it may, they are still, they're 10th, 11th, something like that in the league. So they've had a decent start. They've had some surprising results. I mean, they held on against Coventry. They've held out. So actually, you can say that they've got the history of being a top side, but they haven't really been achieving much of note. Certainly last year and this year, they've just consolidated themselves as a championship side. So they are definitely a team that you can benchmark yourself against and go, right, okay, this is the kind of team we should be at least competing with if we think we want to stay in this division. And, we're not talking about your Southamptons, your Ipswich, your Leicesters and stuff like that. We're talking about next match down, and that's where you want to probably be aiming for. So it's a good benchmark. Does he have to get a result out of it? Away at Carrow Road, it's not an easy game. So if this was at home, maybe we're having a different conversation. But I think weirdly, is this the game where a performance does matter? Because not to say you can't win it. I'm just saying that it's going to be a tough one. But if you get a good performance out of it. But it's like with QPR, you should have done better there, but didn't. So how do you measure that?
With the media circus around that we were talking about before around Parky and his question marks over his job, I'm a little bit nervous about not getting a result this weekend, because I just think if we go there and it's a tough place to go and get a result, no matter no matter what form you're in, and obviously because we are a little bit up and down at the minute. I'm a little bit fearful or a little bit sort of nervous about what the fallout's going to be if we go there and we don't get a result. It's just going to add fuel to that, the fire that is there, even though I don't think there's any substance to it at the moment. It's obviously there's a lot of crap around it, isn't it? So, it's a tough one.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Norwich City versus Wrexham?
I'm so on the fence for this. When you look at the two teams and their goal difference so far this season, this has got like a 5-4 win on it, because we score lots of goals, they score lots of goals, but we concede a lot of goals and they concede a lot of goals. So it's got a 0-0 draw written all over it. I'll tell you where I'm torn here. Right, 2-1 is my prediction, but I can't decide which way to go. There's part of me that thinks that they've got arguably the best striker in the league. That Josh Sargent who plays up front for him, who's an American international. He shouldn't be anywhere near this league. And he is a difference maker player. He can make things happen. So I'm nervous about him, particularly with our defence at the minute. So I can't decide whether they're going to pip it 2-1 or whether we're going to get a Parky masterclass and we're going to go and absorb a load of pressure and then sneak it 2-1.
Get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence, get off the fence.
What do you think, Ryan?
Any time. We're not in any rush or anything. Yeah, Ryan, what do you think?
Well, everybody, I think it's going to be...
We're going to back Parky all the way. 2-1 Wrexham.
Get in. Well done, you. Daz, what's your score prediction for Norwich City versus Wrexham?
I mean, I've got the same note that there's going to be goals in this game. I reckon there's going to be potentially 4 goals. What I can't decide is whether it's a 2-2 draw or it's a 3-1 Norwich win. So
I've never liked you on this podcast.
he likes Hugh more because he's Wolverine. That's why.
Yeah. What are you going for, Si?
I'm not telling you until you've given your official thing. So get on with it.
I am going to go for a draw. 2-2. Let's do it.
A Desmond, a bit of a Desmond. And I'm predicting Norwich City 2, Wrexham 0. I think the players will continue to struggle. I think they will continue to gel. The 3 new players that we signed at the end of transfer deadline day will have still only had a week, and they'll still be getting used to players. I also think, as Jamie said, that Parky will stick with players that he knows. And I think if he's not careful, that's going to start to become his downfall, because he's been ruthless about getting rid of players who we don't feel can compete at this level. But if he can't be a little more adaptive with regards to players in the squad who he feels that he needs to start, they need to be the first name on the team sheet, whether no matter how they play or not, I think that's a big problem, because he needs to look at who are his 11 best players for each individual match. I'm not saying in general, because every match is different, but you look at your opponent, you look at the way your opponent's tactics, and you go, right, what are the best 11 players I can put in to counteract those tactics? And I feel he's not going to do that. I think
you heard it here first. Welshtechie said Parky out.
Yeah, definitely not. No, because I'm not getting the dog's abuse that you did. That's for sure. But I think Norwich are going to have. They're at home as well. I just think they're going to have too much. So yeah, Norwich 2, Wrexham 0. So let's wrap those chips. Oh.
And I was going to say, for the benefit of the podcast and for this tournament, that's great. We've got to draw a home win and an away win.
Absolutely, yeah. Somebody's going to get some points. So whatever happens,
let's break this tie.
Which is perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer, it's TNS Women. So Wrexham travel 11 miles down the road across the border to Park Hall to take on TNS Women in this week's Adran Premier League tie. Sunday, the 21st September, kickoff at 2 p.m. BST. Last year, TNS finished 3rd in the Adran League with 8 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses, goal difference of plus 20 and 27 points. This year so far, they won 1-0 at home to Cardiff City in a game that was televised, and lost away at the super duper mega team that is Aberystwyth Town at ABBA. Wrexham and TNS met 4 times last year, all in the league, with Wrexham winning 2 and losing 2. And the chips are done. Daz, interesting one, this one. Would you say that this is Wrexham Women's first major test of the season? Nothing against Britain Ferry, nothing against Barry Town. But TNS very much might be considered being the high flyers. Do you think this is their first major test of the season?
Didn't we say something about Britain Ferry Clansowell are the same thing, though? You know, they achieved.
I didn't mean that. I had my fingers crossed all the time I was saying it. I didn't mean it.
I think there's some truth to what you're saying, but I do think that we had imagined that Clansowell would equally have built on their success of last year, or at least their consistency. And but TNS are the ones that seem to have spent the money, or at least invested and recognize, hold a very important. They hold the women's game in as much an important place as they do the men's game. So there's something, you know, there's a positivity about that from their club point of view. So they're backed, as are Wrexham, as are Swansea, as are Cardiff, obviously. But yeah, TNS seems to be like the others, you know, the other also around the best of the rest, and which is why it was so surprising that after such a brilliant game against Cardiff to get the result they did. I know Cardiff clearly weren't at the races; they were just not their usual selves, but. And I can only go from the read what I read about the Aberystwyth game.
Facing the mighty Aberystwyth.
I mean, it sounded like welcome to West Wales. Weather was tough, really gritty. Meet
my wife and my sister. You know, that kind of thing.
Excuse me.
Whoa!
That's further south. I was going to name it. I was going to name a town then, and then I realised I have family.
Yeah,
in most of them,
whoa,
so-
steady now. Steady now.
That's Milford Haven. No, no, I don't have any family in Milford Haven, so I feel I'm safe there. But you know,
You're okay, you good.
okay. Everywhere else, I've probably got family. No, so I just don't. I'm not sure what was the reason, but yeah, it was tough conditions. So who knows? If they dust themselves off, I think they could be a bit of a challenge, but I still think that Wrexham have boosted and bolstered their team significantly. And when you look at the first half of the game last week, if they played like that and consistently keep that kind of level of quality up, I don't see this being a problem game. Yes, it's at TNS, which means it'll almost certainly be the all-weather pitch, which obviously you're a fan of, and TNS are used to playing that. So you know there are some levelers in it, but I still think Wrexham have the quality players and should be able to get a result out of it. I would have thought.
Jamie, it is a local rivalry. It is, close as a derby as you're going to get. Obviously, we've got Amber Lightfoot also has gone over to play for them. Interesting as well, news this week that Rebecca Pritchard has signed for Tranmere. I don't know whether the two of you saw that. She's signed for Tranmere, which is interesting. I always love the flag they have, which is Sheep Shagger to the left of me, Scousers to the right. Here I am stuck in the Wirral with you, which always just makes me laugh every time, to be fair. So that's really, really good. Yeah, bravo. So obviously there's a lot of needle there because TNS and Wrexham are local rivals. But can you see Wrexham just going there and rolling them over?
Not rolling them over, no. I whether we like it or not, they are a force now. They showed last season the potential that they've got. I know there've been a lot of changes, but I think that's right. I think we have to be positive about our own situation. We've brought in, yes, we've lost some key personnel, some key players, but I think from what we've seen so far, the bulk of the players that have come in have been a real quality additions to the squad, to the team. And then on top of that, you now look at the fact with Jenny Sugarman in charge and her kind of approach and the way we're playing. I think we're going to be a tough team to beat. I know we've tried really hard in these first two games to give the opposition the win, but I think we are going to be a hard team. We're going to be a hard team to beat. But this, I think you're right with what you say with regards to, no disrespect to Britton Ferry and Barry Town, but I think this is our first kind of real test so far this season, and then with it being away from home as well. So it's another tough one to call, this one, I think.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce cork. Daz, what's your score prediction for TNS Women versus Wrexham Women?
I have gone for TNS 1, Wrexham 3.
Nice. Jamie, what's your score prediction for TNS Women versus Wrexham Women?
What did you say?
3-1 to Wrexham.
No, not repeat it. Oh.
Sorry.
3. Sorry, I thought I heard you say 4-3 then. 3-1 to Wrexham.
3-1 to Wrexham.
No, look, I know you think I've got it in
like 4-3.
I know you think I've got it in for all goalkeepers, but I would never go that harsh on them and say 4-3. So not this game anyway. Is that why you're going 4-3 then?
4-3 to Wrexham.
That's what you're going with, is it?
Yep.
4-3 to Wrexham. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm predicting. And I'm predicting TNS Women 2, Wrexham Women 3. I think it's going to be another one of those. I think Wrexham. I'm hoping Wrexham stop the mistakes. I think if they stop the mistakes, these games will stop being so close, because scoring is not a problem. You can see from the amount of service they're getting down the sides and through the middle that scoring is not going to be a problem. The problem at the moment seems to be a bit of a leaky, defense and goalkeeping. I think if they can cut out those mistakes, I think it would be a different game. But I still think they're finding their feet. However, I am going to say it's almost as if, because Jenny Sugarman came along with 6 weeks to go to this season, she said, we're not taking the crew to America, so she cancelled those. She closed the doors. She brought in lots of trialists without telling anybody, thanks to obviously the Wrexham media department. And she had a prolonged pre-season against teams of a similar ilk who were local, and did a really strong pre-season. And then they win both of games at the beginning of the season. Some might say that a strong pre-season with a strong ethos is important to the start. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Obviously, I wouldn't say that.
You bitch.
I wouldn't say that taking people halfway across the world for commercialism is not a good way to start the season. I wouldn't say that. Just getting that straight right now. So let's wrap those chips. Oh, I'm now in trouble now. So let's wrap those. Sorry, Ryan, if you're listening. Wrap those chips up to keep them warm.
You won't be listening again.
That's it. He's gone. That's it. He's gone. Let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer tonight, it's Reading.
Oh, shit, I don't know this.
Or Reading, if you pronounce it wrongly. It's Carabou Cup time. Hooray! Yes,
forget the Carabou Cup.
Carabou Cup. Tuesday, 23rd of September, kickoff 7:45 p.m. BST at the Stoke Kairas. We welcome back Reading in round 3 of the Carabou Cup. Reading so far, round 1, they beat Portsmouth 2-1 away, and round 2, they beat AFC Wimbledon at home 2-1 to get to round 3. We, of course, drew 3-3 at home with Hull City, with Ollie Palmer and his swan song scoring 2 off the bench, but 1 on penalties, and then we beat Preston North End away 3-2. In the league so far this season, Reading are absolutely in the toilet. They have only 1 win so far in League One and are sitting 21st. Of course, this is the return of Jack Marriott, who has been scoring for them and assisting last Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see whether he starts. I'm sure he will. The last time, obviously, we played Reading was in League One at home, where we won 3-0. And the chips are done. So, cup game, Jamie, free hit. Although we're getting to now, are we getting now to that stage where it's like round 3? It's getting to the point now where do we play the field fringe players, or do we start putting in the number 1 team?
We win this game, we're into the last 16. That's not to be sniffed at. So I know we say this every time, but I think the team he picks on Tuesday will very much depend on what happens on Saturday. Because I think if, going back to what I was saying before, I've got to ask you, are you going to Delia's house?
I've got a ticket, yes. I think I am double booked myself.
Oh, well done.
Because it's my wife's birthday present on Saturday. We're going to somewhere south of England for that. So I might have double booked myself, I think.
Oh.
Which is a bit annoying.
Well done. Sorry, anyway.
I really wanted to go Carrow Road as well. I really wanted to go to Carrow Road, so that's my fault.
Yeah. I think going back to what I was saying when we were talking about that game, if we don't get a favourable result on Saturday, like I say, I think there'll be more noise, won't there, around the whole Parky conversation and everything else. So given the fact that we then come back at home against a team in the league below us who are not having the best of seasons themselves, I think there'll be a bit of pressure on for us to get a result. But I think we do have to take it seriously because, like I say, the first couple of rounds, you could kind of dismiss it as a free hit, as you called it. But I think we're getting to the point now, this is not me suggesting that we could go and bloody win the thing, but you are getting to the realms now where, you win this one, you're into the last 16, you would like to think at that point, I was going to say you'd like to think at that point, and then you're kind of guaranteed a big Premier League team. But you know what'll happen? We'll get Grimsby. Yeah. But
Swansea.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure for this game we will see a full 11 changes like we've seen in the previous rounds. But I think we will definitely see a good number of changes because there'll be players he'll want to give minutes to. George Thomason is a good example. He apparently, like Windass, is fit and available, I think, now for the first time this season. He may make the bench for Saturday's game, but he won't start. But I would expect him maybe to get a good run out in that game. So, it's always the Tuesday one after the Saturday without knowing what's happened on the Saturday is always a difficult one to predict. Throw in the fact that it's a cup game. But it'll be nice to see Jack Marriott come back and sort of have a little bit of a proper goodbye. I dare say he will probably score. Like you say, he's already scored a couple of goals since he's gone there. Just unfortunately, I wish I could go to the game, but I'm not going to be able to go to the game, so I'm going to have to try and watch it on TV, unfortunately.
You don't go to Wrexham games anymore, do you? You just plastic fan. Let's be honest. Daz,
Cardboard fan.
Well, so Ryan has got bubble on his mask that says Welshtechie smells of shit. Excellent.
I agree, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks. Daz, as Jamie said, Reading, League One side, surely we should just bat these lot away and look forward to playing Grimsby in round 4, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Moving on then.
In all seriousness, I'd love to beat Reading. Not to sound all Kevin Keegan here. I'd love to beat Reading, and I'd love to get Liverpool. I'd love to. All right.
Would love it.
I'd really like to get Liverpool in the next round. It would just be good.
Just to get Daz up to watch the Wrexham game. Because if it's Liverpool, we literally would have to hold him back if Liverpool got to play Wrexham.
Whichever way, whether it's at home or away, just to play Liverpool, just for this pod, I think it'd be good for 1 week, so that we can get George Dodson to smash Isak in 2.
I don't think you guys are thinking big enough. I don't think you think that. Surely you want to make it to the final and meet us there.
Ooh. I mean, at least there's a guarantee that he'll play the starting 11, normal starting 11, rather than 11 kids, which, let's be honest, even if we met him in round 4, he's going to play 11 kids, and let's be honest, because he's not going to risk his decent players against us. So, time for the salt, vinegar and sauce core. I will go first on this one, seeing as you two have gone first in the last 2. I predicting Wrexham 3, Reading 1. I think we won't have any problems with this. I think we'll make a statement. I think Reading are on their bum. They will threaten us, of course they will, and I think it'll be tight for a little while. In fact, they may even score first, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Marriott was the one who put it between the posts, because that would be the ultimate FU to the management. But I think Wrexham's class will out. I think Parky will roll out the big guns at some point, and I think we'll have enough, because having watched Reading as I have this season, they are not good. They're not in a good place. 3-1. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Reading?
Genuinely, that's what I've gone for as well. 3-1 for Wrexham.
Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Reading?
I mean, for the spirit of the league, 3-1. No. I'm torn between 2 scores. I've gone. Well, I can fully disclose them because you've already gone.
You can. Yeah, we've already gone.
My original score was going to be 2-0 Wrexham, and then I've also changed it to 2-1 Wrexham. This was before we started recording, and now you said 3-1, and the whole Marriott. Oh yeah, so let's make it interesting. I'll go 2-1. And then when they're on 2-1 for like 20 minutes, and I'll just be hating every minute, thinking they're just going to get another one, aren't they? They get another one, and you're going to be hoping. And so there's going to be this lovely chemistry we'll have somewhere in the ether. That. So let's go 2-1.
So when Reading are 2-0 up after 10 minutes, we'll know it's all in the toilet.
I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll discuss these 3 games in next week's pod. So there you have it. That's it for another week. Next week, we'll look back at the Gambia. I can't see what's it. Like and subscribe. Ryan's saying like and subscribe, so it must be true on his mask. And I love the Gambia. We don't love the Gambia anymore. It's Burkina Faso now.
I couldn't spell that. I couldn't spell it.
Faso?
Yeah, but how do you spell Burkina? I didn't have time to look it up.
E-N-O. I don't know. I haven't got a clue either. So next week, Jamie's not with us next week. He's been caught in a boat crossing the D from England to Wales. So UK Border Force have turned him back.
122 episodes, and I'm missing my first one.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be lovely next week, Daz. It's gonna be 2 hours of knob jokes.
Brilliant.
Me and you, that's all it'll be.
Fantastic.
That's
That's what I'm known for.
Or just 2 hours of knobs.
Anyway, next week we'll look back at the Wrexham's game versus Norwich and Reading, plus Wrexham Women taking on TNS, and look forward.
Does that mean I have to watch the Norwich
Yeah,
game?
You have to watch. Yeah, you have to, because I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you what you thought of it, and you're going to go, I don't know. I only watched half a goal because I was too busy fluffing myself or whatever.
The Reading game's on at the same time as the Liverpool one, isn't it?
I don't know.
Probably.
It is. Trust me.
You're going to have to record it or something. I don't know.
The podcast will only be about 22 minutes long next week.
I was going to say, it'll disintegrate. Anyway, let me finish what I'm saying. We look forward as well next week to playing Derby County for the first time since playing them in the FA Cup in 2007. Wrexham Women are back at the Rock to take on newly promoted Pontypridd United Women. And we take on the big boys away at Leicester City for the first time in 43 years in a midweek game. Please let us know your thoughts, comments, questions by the usual channels on social media. Please leave a comment if you want to on YouTube or Spotify, or you can send us an email, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. If you've got anything particular you'd like to discuss. Obviously, won't see Jamie next week because he'll be knee-high in boxes, trying to work out where all his stuff is. Probably we'll do a better podcast though for it. The sound will definitely be better. So sorry about that. You'll find that rolled up newspaper. But Daz and I will be back next week. Obviously, of course, we couldn't do it without these two because I would just be talking to myself, and there's no fun in that. Although obviously now I'm friends with Ryan, I could just probably talk to him, so that's fine. Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Jamie. Yeah, it's no good doing the mask and just sticking your middle finger up to me. Thank you, Jamie. You can say you're welcome.
You're very welcome. As always,
right.
You're very welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, good. Now, you enjoy your move. And thank you, Daz.
Pleasure was all mine, obviously.
Absolutely. As I've been Welshtechie, as always. And until next week, come on, Cymru, and please, because I like Parky. I like him as a manager. Come on, the town.
Clinton, 1-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Norwich cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back promotions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.